Nietzsche's thought, from the beginning to practically the end of his creative career, displays a profound, passionate ambivalence to Wagner, both as a composer and as a man. In The Case of Wagner, written shortly before his final collapse, Nietzsche lambasts Wagner as the apogee of European decadence, yet acknowledges him to be perhaps the preeminent cultural figure of his day. And in Ecce Homo, his autobiography, written more or less contemporaneously, he says that Wagner's acquaintance was one of the great joys of his life. When Nietzsche, a brilliant but still obscure young philologist, first met him, Wagner was already famous, living in virtual exile in Switzerland, his operas the talk of Europe. Over the coming years, Wagnerism would grow from merely a way of looking at music and the arts into an entire cultural movement, with its dogmas of redemption through art and the unity of the arts, its temple at Wagner's new opera house in Bayreuth. And Nietzsche, for a time, was one of its greatest apostles, above all with the birth of tragedy. He would later turn on Wagner with the same passion that he had devoted earlier to proselytizing for him. He repudiated the composer as a decadent who had succumbed to the Christian morality that Nietzsche despised, and he disowned his own earlier works, including The Birth of Tragedy. One thing that we want to ask in this class is whether there's not some unity to Nietzsche's thinking about Wagner, whether the later works, the later critique of Wagner is already implicit in The Birth of Tragedy, and whether the love for Wagner that you see in The Birth of Tragedy still remains in the polemic of The Case of Wagner. We also want to ask, what insights can Nietzsche give us today into Wagner's extraordinary body of work, and how did Wagner, for good and for ill, influence Nietzsche's thinking?